because I am what some would call a nerd. One of which is the Phlebotomist. Well, hello and welcome to another video. My name is Liberty and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be a reading vlog. Now it's just going to be a general day-to-day look at what I'm reading this week. It's currently the 17th of April, I think. It's a Sunday. I'm currently in the middle of two books, one of which is The Phlebotomist by Panatier, I think is how you pronounce it, and the other is Amelia Westlake by Erin Gough. Now we're about to head off on the train to London, so I'm sure I'll be reading and I'll show you, I guess. Cool or like a traffic cone. So I thought it was worth actually explaining about the books that I'm currently reading. So like I said, I'm in the middle of The Phlebotomist, which is a kind of a dystopian speculative fiction set in the near future in 2067 about I'm guessing a kind of future America where the world is segregated according to blood type, because really the only employment available is by selling your blood to the government, which is called Patriot. Not at all American. It's all, you know, dystopian poverty and things. Apparently the reason this is all sparked is because of a nuclear bomb that went off called Chrysalis like a few decades before, and so like in the struggle to recuperate from that, a whole swathe of the population got sick, and so Patriot stepped in to kind of provide medical care, but that required legally the rest of the population providing blood, and then this whole like thing began called the harvest. So I'm not saying that it's kind of bad, well I am, but the thing that really sticks out to me is the fact that it really reads like someone read The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood and was like, I can do that. Like, I'm not saying I even like Handmaid's Tale, honestly I didn't really like that book much, but it's pretty much the same vibes, except, and here's the crux of it, added vampires. Yes, I didn't say that wrong, vampires. So I'm not really sure where to take that. Interesting, like, kind of construction of the dystopia, I guess, but also very simplistic, very obvious. Everything keeps happening way too easily, and the stakes, like, of danger and death and poverty, like, me as the reader, I'm not feeling that. Like, it all seems so ridiculous, honestly, and that's the problem. I do not think it's going to be a high rating from me, but I am still reading it because, quite honestly, I just want to see how it plays out. Like, it's entertaining me enough that I'm keeping going, so that's a plus. And the other plus is I'm actually learning a lot about blood because the main character Willa is a phlebotomist, not in the kind of in the terms of this dystopia which calls anyone who takes blood in the blood drive a phlebotomist. She was actually trained as a phlebotomist decades before when the world was normal, you know. So she has a lot of blood knowledge, and the chapters begin with kind of facts and definitions and things. So I'm actually learning quite a lot more than I expected about actually the circulatory system. But apart from that, it's kind of ridiculous, but kind of fun. Also, I really thought it was worth saying, like, you can see he also got some inspiration from A, the Hunger Games with the whole reaping thing, and B, Donald Trump, because someone like on the kind of news report thing just went fake news, and I was like, oh. It's like yes, I agree, Donald Trump is awful, but also like really obviously using him in a dystopia. It's a bit of a shallow take on a truly horrific thing. So now the other thing I'm reading is Amelia Westlake, and that is for episode 6 of my quest to find the best queer YA romance. You'll have to wait and see for that one because episode 6 will be out in a little while. I'm enjoying it, that's worth saying, but it's not like the top tier. I kind of like the fight the power vibes and so yeah, but it's because it's a queer YA romance, I'm getting through it very quickly, so I'll be done with that one probably like tomorrow. And the Phlebotomist, I'm kind of 80-something% of the way through now, so also will probably be done soon. And the next thing that I'm going to pick up is New Grub Street by Gissing. Francis Gissing, I think. And I've just realised I can't show you because I'm using it as a tripod. But it's a library book, and I got it from the like City Library of Cambridge, the city, not the uni, like weeks ago, but then I haven't actually got around to reading it this holiday, so I need to do it now before I need to give it back. I've heard that it's cool. I mean, apparently it's about like a kind of bohemian writer slash like kind of artistic group. Sort of like the idea I have is like the Bloomsbury set, but I don't think it's Edwardian. I think it might be before that. I'm not certain though. I will tell you more when I find out. And that one's going towards my decades challenge, although again, I can't remember which decade. What else? In other news, I have to go back to work today, which is tragic, truly tragic. If you'd like fly so I can see you're a heron. Go. Anytime now. So I have finished The Phlebotomist by Panatier, which was an experience. The vampire thing and the gory thing did keep going up, more than I expected, but still somehow in a way that I didn't actually care about. I was reading it and I was like, people are dying, okay. I'm reading about like blood spurting everywhere, and it didn't even really affect me because I just think there was a lack of, you know, emotional connection built in. There was a lack of character development. There was a lack of just characterization in general. Especially it made me laugh that right at the end, there's this kind of hint of a queer romance, which they just thrust in for no apparent reason, which doesn't even have that much of a precursor. I was genuinely confused instead of like, oh, this makes sense now. There wasn't foreshadowing. It was just like, The plus points of that book include the fact that the main character, Willa, is actually a sort of an elderly woman. She is also, as far as I can tell, racialized as black. I'm not certain about that, but the impression I get was that she was black. So as a demographic to be representing as the protagonist of a story like this, really, really unusual and great. It's just that I don't necessarily think it was done that well. Like, it wasn't fleshed out very well that she was black, if she was. And it certainly was important that she was more than 60 years old, because that's how she got her advanced phlebotomy training, like back in the day before the nuclear bombs. The problem is that she doesn't really have any other personality apart from being a phlebotomist and looking after her grandson. You know, all of a sudden she's shooting guns and being a hacker, and it's just like, what? Was genuinely disturbed, if anything, by the scene where one particular person gets turned into a vampire and starts gnashing at rats. That was disgusting. But the ending, so weird, so easy. This is the biggest problem I have with this book. Like, everything just was so easy. There was no genuine issues or conflicts that they faced really at any one time. How is this supposed to be like genuinely surprising and entertaining if it's just all working out really too well for them all? It didn't make sense. And so right at the end, it all again doesn't really make sense. They just work it all out. Oh look, they solved everything by accident. It just doesn't make sense. I gave that one 2 stars, and I'm quite happy to be done with it because, as I said, I've now started New Grub Street by George Gissing, not Francis Gissing. The issue being that I got 14 pages in and then fell asleep. So I'll tell you more about that later. I think an issue is that I wasn't particularly engaged by the first 14 pages, but I think that's usually the case for kind of classics where it just takes a bit of effort to get the ball rolling, and then when you are in it, it really just like brings out all the life of the story. I'm hoping it's going to be like that. My friend Maddie today saw it and was like, oh, that's so cool you're reading that. So I think that means that she has read it and liked it. Hoping that's like a kind of a positive recommendation from her. But yeah, otherwise, what am I going to read next after Amelia Westlake? I don't know. So I've also been reading Amelia Westlake, you know, and I'm now about 2/3 of the way through. It's great, but you're gonna have to wait to hear some more about it. Sorry, I don't make the rules. No, I actually do. But yes, Amelia Westlake involves political activism, underhanded sneakery, and people having character growth. So it's good so far. I'm enjoying it. I'm considering if the next thing I want to read is Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. The thing is, Conversations with Friends was just cracking, but Normal People I equally thought was cracking the first time I read it. But the issue is, there are only these three. Like, that's it. That's what I have. And I'm just a little bit concerned that when I've read this one, I'm going to be lacking in the Sally Rooney content, because it's just it's a certain vibe. It's the just kind of melancholy-ish, no plot, just vibes, youngish adults just trying to figure things out kind of genre, which is just, it just fits. Sometimes it is exactly what I want. And I'm just worried if I read this too soon, then I'm gonna like regret it later when I don't have any more Sally Rooney to read. It's just beautiful though, isn't it? I borrowed this from my friend and like, it's just gorgeous. I never really read hardcover, so I'm gonna try really hard not to ruin her fancy edition. I'm used to my paperbacks that I like dug ear and write all over, but this is like pretty, so probably shouldn't. I'm most excited about the fact that it ends in the pandemic apparently, like there's some of it in the pandemic, which will be the first text I've read which involves the pandemic, which will be very exciting, very interesting, because of course that was a big thing for like 2 years. I say that like it's over. I'd say the pandemic as an event is possibly over, but COVID as a disease is not. I'm intrigued to see the first lockdown represented in text, because that was just such a specific experience, like early COVID. So that'll be really cool. And I'm excited for Sally Rooney wit and just people being people. I just love like relationship stuff, everyday life stuff, and trying to figure out where you're going in the world stuff, coming of age stuff. It's great. Although the other side of it is that I do sometimes wonder if I'm actually just like really completely like other girls, because it's kind of the done thing to be into Sally Rooney on BookTube, and I'm like, is it kind of embarrassing to be into Sally Rooney for that very reason, like because it's kind of popular? But then the other side of it is like, why is it embarrassing to do things that other people like? That's literally stupid. It's our stupid westernization, Americanization, individualist bent that everyone's obsessed with. Like, we have to be different. Like, no. Maybe I am like other girls. Maybe I am completely basic. I like Sally Rooney, for God's sake. Why am I psychoanalyzing literally my choice of author? It's just not important to be individual. I'm strange enough by choosing to read things like New Grub Street by George Gissing of a weekday. So I just need to calm down, and I need to accept that popular things are popular for a reason. And that's that. That doesn't clear up whether I'm actually going to read it this week or not though. Well, hello. It is now Wednesday, and I have finished Amelia Westlake late last night, which was great. That one was a 4-star read for me. It was pretty great. It was just such a bop. Enough of a bop that I was accidentally keeping on reading it till the early hours of the morning. Sometimes it's necessary, you know? Now, in place of Amelia Westlake, what have I finally decided to start reading? It's a tough one, folks. But you know what? I'm going a bit rogue here. I'm actually not going to choose Beautiful World, Where Are You? Even though I'm really intrigued and I want to read it. Instead, I'm going to go with this lovely, beautiful hard copy edition of Cider with Rosie that I found at the Oxfam at the end of last term. Because, first of all, it's been on my radar for a really long time because it's set near where I live. Like, it's set in sort of rural southwest England, southwest England. I really I want to see that. I want to see that in print because I miss my rolling hills, you know? Cambridge is flat. Aside from anything else, I just love the rural idyll. It's just so gorgeous. I love reading about it. And this is also apparently kind of autobiographical. It's not like, I don't know if it's actually a memoir or if it's just an autobiographical narrative, but it is apparently quite like realistic. So that's going to be really cool. And I can't remember when it's from. I'm going to have to look it up, but it's certainly, it's from 1959, which means that I might be able to tick off another decades challenge. I'm not certain if I've already read something from the 1950s, might have. If I have, sucks to be me. But I also want to read this because I have so many copies of books on my shelf, on my windowsill just behind you, but I am going home in a couple of weeks for a quick weekend home, so I want to be able to have read a few of the actual copies I have so I can take them home, declutter my space. It's obsessive, the amount of books I keep accidentally collecting, because I'm like, oh, it's a secondhand book and I want to read it. I should definitely get it right at this moment. And it's like, yeah, I want these books, but I don't need them here with me right now when I'm unlikely to read it for several months. Really, I should be starting from the other end, actually. I've got a bunch of books down there which I've bought like a year ago and I've just been keeping in one of my Cambridge boxes this whole time. Should I not read Cider with Rosie? By Laurie Lee, by the way. Don't know. What are the other options? This might be a bit rogue, but I'm also going to start Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. Yes, the play, the Shakespeare play. Because I am what some would call a nerd. And I do actually like Shakespeare enough to read it of my own volition. Wait, hang on. Have they changed it? No. This is like a school edition, I think. And so I was really concerned for a second there that they'd changed the actual, what's the word? Changed the vocabulary. They wouldn't have changed it, surely. Oh, but it's got notes. Okay, that's good. This is why I did want a school version, because I think I would struggle if I were trying to read this straight through for the first time on my own, because I've not even seen a production of Julius Shakespeare. I have no conception of what even the story is about, apart from obviously the death of Julius Caesar. But I haven't even, approached it from the classical civilization angle. I really am going into this in the dark, so I needed some information. I needed some notes. I love a good notes section. This is why I like Penguin editions and Oxford Classics and all these things of like classics which have loads of notes at the back, because actually appreciating the substance of the text is so much easier when you have little informational dumps, ready for you. I'm actually excited to read it. I've heard it's beautiful. Of course, it's always fun getting more Shakespeare knowledge because Shakespeare plays have had such an impact on literature, but also just culture at large in the Anglophone world. So I really would like to understand more, just of what's around us. And doing that for me involves reading really old texts like Shakespeare. Nice. Okay, there we are. Starting Julius Caesar and Cider with Rosie. Hang on, I think we also need to discuss the slightly disturbing drawing at the front of Cider with Rosie. I definitely remember opening the book, but I don't think I appreciated the true concerningness of this particular illustrative style. Yeah. It's like a woman lying down in a field, beckoning, I assume. But it kind of gives me Quentin Blake. Like, I don't know what it is about the cross-hatching, but it's really concerning me. Anyway. welcome to Thursday. I have honestly not made that much progress on reading today. I've read like a few pages of Cider with Rosie. I'm on page 36, so the progress has been minimal, to say the least. Really, I've just been focused on other things. I've been watching some booktube when I have time off, and since I officially started getting back to revision yesterday, I don't have as much time for reading anymore. I've got to like get back into the habit of making time for it, specifically straight before I go to sleep and things. That's going to be interesting, but I've also possibly chosen a bit of a bad selection of books because I've got 3 quite heavy ones that are not particularly like fun and light. Maybe I need to rectify the situation by picking up something else and like getting through that to keep myself out of a reading slump, you know? So since I've basically been on a work vent as of yesterday, which is also known as term is unfortunately starting and I have exams in a few weeks, today and yesterday and probably tomorrow as well, been reading Great State by Timothy Brooke, which is quite a chunky one, kind of ridiculously large, and I got it from the Cambridge University Library, the UL that I've showed you in a previous video. So this is for my SAN 4F paper, which is an interesting name. Basically, SAN 4 as a broad thing refers to area papers within anthropology. So basically, there's a particular region of the world and you kind of study conceptually all of the anthropological study that has been conducted around that region. And basically it's about the culture of the region, the history of the region, and anthropology on a theoretical level as well. And the region I chose was Inner Asia, which was completely out of the box. I chose it largely for no apparent reason, and also realistically largely because I kind of wanted to learn about somewhere that I really have no idea about. I know next to nothing about China even, which is quite impressive. Like I managed to avoid learning that much about sort of modern China in my politics and IR papers last year, even though it comes up quite a lot. But yeah, I know next to nothing about China, let alone the whole region of Inner Asia. And so it's been really interesting. And actually, it's not just Inner Asia, because this is all such an interconnected globe, let alone interconnected continent. It's been all about the entirety of Asia, about Southeast Asia, about Russia, about the stands. It's been about all sorts of things. Very interesting, but the problem is that it is a seminar paper. And like I said before, seminar papers, you don't have supervisions. So that means that there's no supervisor sat there demanding you hand in an essay on time. It's only self-directed work. I have, struggled to actually motivate myself to do work for that, especially because I just kept deprioritizing it against actual deadlines I had for other papers. Do you know what I mean? So Inner Asia is the paper that I have to focus on the most this term, like categorically, because I've done so much less work in quantity and quality for Inner Asia than I have any of my other papers, and I'm doing 4, by the way. That's why I'm starting work on Inner Asia, and this Great State book falls under a kind of a subtopic about the concept of all under heaven, or Tianxia, which is a Chinese concept kind of about a cosmological truth where China is the center of the world and sort of there are gradations of life outside of those borders, but essentially China rules all under heaven. And there's very similar kind of like cosmological philosophies about the center of the world across the world. It's really interesting how a lot of cultures have formulated their conception of the world, both in its terrain and how it relates to their deities or heavens or whatever. There's always been a kind of self-centeredness to that. Obviously, it makes complete sense. So it's really interesting learning about that. And so it's really cool. It kind of plays into these deeper questions within the Inner Asia paper about like borders and about how people negotiate borders when there are no physical borders, the only one being the Great Wall of China, which kind of never really acted as that much of a firm border anyway. Concepts of identity and nationality and just the land at large is so inherently tied up in these kind of ongoing frontier changes. So it's really interesting. And of course, that's why the idea of Great State, or as in our parlance we might call it, it's kind of related to the European idea of empire. So that's why it's really important to like learn about all this stuff. It kind of underlines how China, but in Asia in general, has related to the idea of the world around them, because it's expansionist, and that's like really key, because previously China, though all under heaven, was not expansionist. But now I've ranted for long enough about a paper that you lot are not taking and probably don't care about. How about I tell you another fun thing today, which is that I got a delivery. Oh yes, folks, it's a book haul. I mean, they are in this sack because basically I got a bunch of packages and also was given books as presents by one of my friends. I had no space left in my rucksack and I had to use the sack that my busted up package came in from Royal Mail for my books. I'm going to give you a quick whip because these are all for an upcoming video. Whew. There you are, that's all you need to see. But safe to say I'm excited, but I can give you some more detail on the books that my friend gave me. A penguin cloth bound of the picture of Dorian Gray. It's too far, it's too far. It's so beautiful. I love these cloth bound editions, but like I said, I'm not usually one to read hardbacks, so I kind of was like, if I ever get them, they'll be for collecting reasons, for like making my shelves all beautiful. And here I am with my first cloth bound. Thanks, Maddie. Like, it's just so gorgeous. But more importantly, picture of Dorian Gray, cracker. Oscar Wilde in general, amazing writer, just love it. So anyway, I'm really hungry. My stomach is literally rumbling right now, so I'm gonna go and cook dinner. Whoops. And I'll catch up with you later. Hello friends, I am now about a third of the way through Cider with Rosie, and it is just like so adorable. It's giving me such good energy. It's giving me exactly the kind of like rural idyll vibes that I wanted. It's just like having quiet, easy existence in like just rural England, and it's such a specific aesthetic, but like it's so dear to my heart from my own childhood. It is definitely a memoir, like officially a memoir, but I am still going to rate it, I think, because it gives me like, it's such a almost folkloric kind of fictionalized tale that I think it still deserves a rating in terms of its literary work, if that makes sense. It's just fantastic. Honestly, I can see this like ending up at 5 stars, but it's just so beautiful. This is the kind of thing that I'm expecting I will want to read again, like for the vibes later down the line, so I'm quite happy I have this quite beautiful edition of it. Otherwise today has been more reading of inner Asia stuff. Exam term. So Cider with Rosie is like a collection of little stories. Like each chapter is a kind of a discussion of this particular thing in the author's childhood / coming of age in a rural village. And so, for example, one chapter is all about like being at school and the schoolhouse. One chapter is all about their neighbours. I particularly have been loving the description and like a love that Laurie clearly feels for his family. Like the descriptions are just gorgeous, especially of his older sisters. Like there's just this beautiful homely feeling that is being created just so well. I feel like I can see their house. I mean, again, that's because it's the kind of house like visually that I'm used to, but inside as well there's this beautiful like homely comforting feeling, and it's just so wonderful to read. That aspect is just great, but all the little stories are so interesting and they weave together so well. So I'm definitely enjoying Cider with Rosie. But yes, I really haven't made any more progress with Julius Caesar or New Grub Street since I started them. I'm like, actually I think I'm about a quarter of the way through Julius Caesar, but to be fair, there's not like that many pages to it necessarily. The issue is like actually understanding it. So when I've read it through once, I'm probably gonna like leave it a bit and then read it again, because like even with the notes, it's the kind of thing where actually A, unless you see it live, or B, unless you really deeply analyze it, it's not going to have as much meaning, or at least to me. You'll see me talk more about this in episode 6. I struggle with books that aren't in prose form, like poetry and graphic novels and plays. Like like Shakespeare, I can appreciate them like as a beautiful collection of words and illustrations, but I don't ever really connect to them as much. But that's practice mostly, I guess. The only play that I think I've ever actually read and genuinely been enthralled by was The Importance of Being Earnest, like I mentioned with by Oscar Wilde, when we briefly covered some of it in like year 9 in school, and I remember actually just being reading it for the first time and actually laughing out loud. So also I think I was scarred for life by our GCSE play that we did, which was A View from the Bridge by Arthur Miller, which is like super creepy. The art form has forever been scarred by that. Oh, and by the way, Heartstopper came on Netflix today and I've watched a few episodes and it's literally the cutest. My little queer heart is just so happy watching that TV show. I just can't handle it. I love it so much. I'm just, yeah. Hi, sorry, it's now Sunday. I meant to film this conclusion yesterday, but things got away from me. Frankly, I was like kind of in a bit of a weird melancholy state, so yeah. And then in the evening, me and my friends all went to Spoons and we were there quite late, so that was nice. And before that, I did start rewatching Heartstopper. Yes, like literally finished it and then was like, do you know what? Again, another one. In terms of this reading vlog, I have had a good time. It's been nice. I definitely think that I made a mistake with my choices towards the end of the week there, because I've not really been pulled to read that much, which suggests that I haven't got anything that's like actually grabbed my attention very well. And so I really need to rectify that. But I've got a few queer YA books obviously lined up, so probably I'll go down that route. And I will catch up with you all in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you soon, and goodbye.